In today's episode, we're talking about how you can get clients for your social media business when you have hardly any followers on social media.
You're listening to JFDI with the two Lauras. This is the weekly podcast where the two of us chat about all things related to building a business as a freelancer, and every week we share tips, advice and inspiration about business, marketing and social media to help you build a business that fits around your lifestyle and family, but also pays you well. In today's episode, we're talking about how you can win some clients even if you only have a small audience.
These days, saying something on social media just doesn't cut it because no one sees all of your content. So there's huge power in repeating yourself. But repeating and repurposing your content doesn't mean publishing the same post or saying the same message multiple times. It means using different content formats to say the same thing, which can be really hard. So we've put together the ultimate guide to remixing your content to help you to reuse your best content really quickly and help your audience really understand how you can help them. Because when you do that, you can position yourself as an expert and you can win more clients. To get our ultimate guide to remixing your content for free today, just go to thetwolauras.com/ultimate. That's thetwolauras.com/ultimate. Okay, on with today's episode. So we're talking all about how you can get clients when you have hardly any followers. And this is a problem that we have people come to us a lot with. So I think let's just talk about how you don't need a lot of followers. And I just want to say, like, the whole followers thing drives me nuts because we're trying to build a business here, not a cult. We don't need a cult full of followers. We're trying to build a business. So that's my first key takeaway.
Yeah,
don't build a cult.
You're not somebody who is trying to sell millions of products and it's a one-time purchase.
No.
Where you don't even have repeat customers. So therefore, I totally get it. And if you are, then audience is important. But audience size for social media managers just seems to be this huge block. And I get it. Like, you think, oh, well, hang on, no one's going to hire me. I've only got 150 followers or 300 followers or whatever. But the short and sharp answer to that is you don't need 300 clients. You need probably 3, 4, it depends obviously how much time you've got available and how much money you want to make, I guess. But, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe clients. If you charge well, that is more than enough to have a really comfortable, nice life. And I appreciate that it's going to be different to everybody. But so you don't need a huge audience. So you just need anybody who says, oh, why should I hire you? You don't know followers. You just say, because I don't need them. You don't need.
I think there's a lot of people out there who are teaching social media managers that they need to grow these massive audiences for their business, but they forget what you've just said to start with, but they also forget that when you grow a huge audience, basically get an audience of a load of random people who are never going to hire a social media manager. Like, if we were growing a massive audience, there's not enough social media managers on the planet for us to have 1 million followers.
Yeah.
Maybe there are, but it's not realistic because we want to keep our audience specific so that our messaging is specific and speaks to the right people. And when you've got a whole huge audience, your message is never going to land right with all of them. So what's the point in getting them to follow you in the first place?
And I see this all the time where people share those bloody reels going, this audio's going viral, and it's like, it's only going viral because you're saying it's going viral, and because your particular reel is going. It's just so annoying. And it's like, people share loads of Canva hacks because Canva hacks do well on reels. It's like, Canva hacks is not going to attract a good high paying client. Come on. You're just going to attract people who are doing it for themselves. It's just so annoying that people are trying to find these kind of hacks and quick wins to grow massive audiences. Whereas actually, you just need to call it out and say, if you don't want to work with me because I don't have 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers or whatever it is, then fuck off. Like, I don't want to work with you. Like, it's just...
Put that in your email.
I get it. Like, I never forget when I first started and I didn't have any clients, I was determined, because I had nothing else to be doing with my time, to grow an Instagram following. But I never wanted hundreds of thousands of followers, ever. Like, I had, at the time, my eyes were set on it. Maybe if I could try and get to 10K so I could get the swipe up. And obviously that isn't even a thing.
Thank God we don't need that anymore.
I know. And as soon as that wasn't a thing, I lost all motivation for any further growth. So I get you have to have an audience. You've got to have people around you to buy. But you don't have to set your side. Having a small audience is not a reflection on your skills as a social media marketer. And you just need to kind of own that.
In some ways, having a small audience is a massive benefit because you can get to know your audience really well. You can have better conversations with people who are in your audience because you've got time to nurture those people. You know that they're following you for the right reasons, and you're just really clear. And also, like, imposter syndrome comes when you've got so many followers, you don't know what to give them because they're already random. And then you start thinking, oh my God, what the hell am I going to post? That's where imposter syndrome kind of strikes, and you think you're really crap at your job.
Yeah.
So you just, there's so many benefits in having a small audience, but they need to be the right audience.
Like, we've hired people to help us with our social media in the past over the years, but their audience size has never come into question. What comes into question is the quality of their content. And it's not even about what engagement they got. I don't even think that will have factored into if it did, it was subconscious. But it's about, like, can they create good quality content? So I think we should all just be focusing on that. But that's not to say you've got a small audience. What can we do to actually find a client? Because if you've got an audience of, say, 150, 200, 300 people and no one's interested, what can we do? So what steps can we take for you to find a client? Because I promise you, you do not need hundreds of thousands of followers to find your first client. So number one, well, I originally wrote down Facebook groups, but actually it's not just Facebook anymore. Like, that's how we, or certainly you, Laura, found your clients in the early days. But there's groups everywhere now. You've got LinkedIn groups, you've got Slack groups, you've got communities.
Yeah, like circle communities and all sorts, yeah.
So it's not just Facebook groups. So if I do keep referring to Facebook groups, I don't just mean Facebook groups. It's that wider kind of communities on various platforms that you might find useful to position yourself. So do you just want to tell us about how you used to use groups as a way to find clients?
Yes, so I used to really annoy Laura Davis when I was in Facebook groups.
Used to?
Well, okay. I'm a massive Facebook fan. Like, I'm probably showing my age, whatever, but I like Facebook still. And Facebook groups for me were a really useful place to find clients because I used to be in the groups where there would be people hanging out who were there for business reasons, right? So I wouldn't be in like the local selling groups or any of those kind of groups. So I'd be in groups where people are in there for, I don't know, like copywriting tips or PR tips or whatever it is. And I would turn on notifications for the groups where I knew that my kind of ideal clients or people who would potentially hire me would be hanging out. And I could do this because I wasn't at capacity. I had plenty of time. And if you haven't got any clients, you've got time to do this. So you turn on notifications in those groups, those communities, wherever it is that you are. And as Laura said, I was specifically talking about Facebook groups, but this can work anywhere. And as soon as I got a ping that somebody had posted, I would go and see what they'd posted, if it was useful, or if I had something to contribute, I would go and comment on it. And that doesn't mean that post was about social media or asking a question about social media. It could have been asking me about anything. But if I was being useful and helpful, then I would kind of show up as that person. That's how you become known, by becoming useful and helpful. So I would always do that. And I would always try to be the first person to reply, because the first person, if you keep seeing them, you're like, who is this person? And then you go and investigate and see what they're doing. And so you need to make sure that you've got your profile, wherever it is, really kind of optimized to say what you're doing, who you help, and all of that stuff. And you've got links to all your socials. And so that's what I would do. And so Laura would then come in these groups, see if there's any posts that she'd comment on, and I would always be there already, which should really annoy her. But being first, there's massive benefit in being first if you can. That's why you would turn on notifications. And when this becomes overwhelming because you're busy, you just turn them off again. Like, this isn't a long-term thing. You don't have to have notifications on for the rest of your life. I don't have them on now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people they're like, oh my God, no, I have enough notifications as it is. Well, be strategic with the ones that you pay attention to, because I think that can really help. But don't go into these groups and start being the old Spamela Anderson. This is how I help. This is what I do. We're not doing that. We're just being useful and helpful in those groups. And, you can even kind of spot those people who are being too useful and helpful in a spammy way, right? They're like, here's some great tips for you for your social media today. No one asked.
I know.
No one's asked that.
We get those in the hub, don't we? We just decline. Yeah. We just decline them all.
Yeah, delete.
No one needs
decline
that kind
of delete. So you want to be kind of just have a bit of respect for the group owner. Don't go into the groups of your competitors. Like, that's not nice. Go into the groups where the person who's running the group it aligns with what you do, but they don't do what you do. And never try and steal that person's audience, because they've spent time building that group. You are not entitled to that group. You're not entitled to go and post in there. You're not entitled to go and take that audience away, but you can go and be helpful and useful.
Yeah, you can complement that group by being a really valued member of that group. You know, we have people who are really, really helpful. They share loads of insights. So we don't mind it if someone says, "Oh, can I hire you?" We're like, "Well, yeah," because they've built that reputation. But yeah, we would have a totally different feeling if it was a Spamler Anderson.
Definitely.
So yeah, so groups are a great way to just it's all of this is about building relationships, isn't it? And that was kind of my second point, but I guess it overarches all of it in that, like, when we don't have a big audience, so we don't have an audience that we can just talk at, like if you envisage standing on a stage, like if you have no audience and no one's going to come and watch you standing on a stage, then you're obviously talking to nobody. So what you would do is get off that stage and go and walk into the foyer where all the people are hanging out, and you would go and speak to them, and you would go and build those relationships. And it's so easy for us to do that. Like, and if you think back when I had my previous business, if I wanted to like network, I'd have had to have gone to like a networking event, which it just fills me with, well, no joy whatsoever. Like, it's just not my thing. And I know lots of people like networking events. They like to see and touch people, and that's fine. But, but that's just not my thing. So either way, you want to build relationships, whether it's in person, that's entirely up to you, or whether it's online is equally valid. Like, no, neither is better. And I have built a very successful business without seeing and touching people. Like, you can do that online.
I don't think you need to touch people to be a social media manager, thankfully.
So
that's a whole different job.
By touching, I'm meaning like shaking of a hand, a hug, maybe.
Okay, good.
Not like
inappropriate
touching. Although I have done that at networking events. One of our one of our members, Anita, if she's listening, her sticky badge was falling off, so I pushed it back down and it was on her breast. And I did have to clarify that I was like, oh my God, this is a nightmare.
Did she pay extra for that?
No, she did not, but she was lovely about it. So yes, anyway, we digress. So, but it's about building relationships, isn't it? So just think, how can I do that? You just got to be a bit more proactive. So going into a Facebook group and being helpful and useful and doing it in the right way, that is proactive. It might not give you overnight success. You're not necessarily going to find a client the next day, but you've got to start the legwork. Nothing is going to just suddenly, you might be lucky. You might be able to give someone a bit of advice in a Facebook group, and the next day they say, "Oh, can you be my social media manager?" Brilliant. But we just need to manage expectations here. But you can also be doing this on social, in DMs, like messaging people. But when I say that, I mean it in a non-spammy, cold pitching way. I am not saying go to a small business and message them going, "Hey, I'm a social media expert. Do you want me to help you?" Like, I'm not, like, they are the quickest messages we delete. Like, even if it's a nice person and not like some botty one, delete. Like, I just can't bear it.
We don't even just delete them. I block them.
Okay, that's what we do. I can't bear it. It's like when people knock on my door, I instantly get a guard up. Even if it's a charity, I'm sorry, but I just no, you don't come to my home and ask stuff of me. If I want to give to charity, which I do, I will do that to who I choose, and I will go and do my research. Don't come to me. And it's like when people come and sell shit on your front door. Not that really people do that anymore, but I just don't like it. I instantly get a guard up and I'm like, go away. And it's the same in my DMs. That's like my front door. I don't want people to come and sell to me and tell me, especially when they're telling me, "Do you need help with your social media?" Like, I'm like, "Do you know who you're talking to?" Like, it just really gets on my nerves. So that is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about cold pitching and sliding into people's DMs. We're just talking about being human and having human conversations.
So how do we do that? How can we do that without sliding into a DM going, "Hi, I'm a social media manager"? Like, what should the DM say?
To me, I think the easiest way to get into someone's DMs is by replying to stories,
Yeah.
or maybe kind of responding to a post. But I might do that in DM saying, look, I saw your post today, this blah, 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 blah. So whatever the stories are, but it's not necessarily work related, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
And it does depend a little bit on the types of businesses that you're interested in working with. You know, are you essentially just going to be chatting with another social media manager? There is that kind of to bear in mind. You're kind of you need to figure that out for yourself. But like, I spent probably 6 months chatting with this woman in my DMs about gin. Like, I followed her. She was in my niche, followed her, a successful business owner. She would talk about gin. I would reply. I think it started because she shared her favorite gin, and I said, "Oh, that's my favorite gin. But if you like that, you'll also like this." And we got into a whole conversation about gin. And then if you followed me for a long time, I used to have a gin rainbow, which was a shelf of lots of different gins in a rainbow colours. So I used to have a lot of conversations with people about gin. So she used to reply when I used to add to my rainbow. And yeah, and we just used to talk about gin. Like, yes, she was in my niche. And yes, occasionally she might ask me a social media based question and I'd reply. But we just built a relationship. It turns out she is the wife to my now most long term, probably not best paying, but in terms of longevity, better playing client. And as soon as he said he needed help with social media, she was like, I know who you need. And it's not because I proved myself as being, yes, she'll have seen my content that I'll have been putting out on my grid. But most importantly, we've built a relationship. She knew that we had the personalities that would work with her husband and to a degree her, like she's involved in that business. And I think that speaks volumes if you can try to get the personalities aligned. And that's why I'm with that client now, because we get on. We have similar use of bad language, all these kind of things. It's not about your skill. I'm the best social media manager, you've got to hire me. It's about just being a person and having a conversation. So in answer to your question, which was a really long answer,
it was so long ago, I can't remember what the question was.
the question is, how do we actually get into people's DMs? So
yes, that question.
Reply to stories, but don't reply to stories where I can help you. It's just reply to stories going,
No.
can you tell me where you got that jumper from? Or, oh my God, I love that you went to that theme park. Where is it? Or was it really busy? Or just whatever they have shared, or just be really complimentary about their product, or just say, oh my God, I love this. I'm going to buy this as a present, if you mean that. It's just about having conversation. Like, if you think back to what social media is all about, it is all about connections. It's about having conversations. And I know I sound like a complete wanker saying that, but it is, isn't it? And that's how, if I think back to the large majority of my clients, certainly the ones that lasted, were clients that found me and I built a bit of a relationship with them, some in various degrees. The clients that came and went were clients that probably just found me on Google, hired me, we didn't have any relationship with. I didn't like them, they didn't like me, one or the other, and that relationship ended. So I do think that relationship building is something that we just totally take for granted. And a lot of that is happening in people's DMs. And you kind of look at your competitors and other social media managers and, well, they're just doing what I'm doing. They're posting 2 or 3 times a week, or they're sharing similar value-based content, but you don't know what's happening in those DMs. You don't know what's happening in WhatsApp groups. You don't necessarily know what's happening in Facebook groups, even if you're in them, because you don't necessarily see all the comments everybody makes on everybody's posts. So
it's like you're only seeing that very top level front facing part of their strategy.
Yeah, you're seeing their shop window. You're not seeing the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But talking of your shop window, even if you don't have followers, I do think it's really important that you continue to try and bring them to you, continue to try to build that audience of the right people. Don't you agree?
100%. If you're going to do the 2 things you need to be doing if you haven't really got an audience is be proactive. So go and have conversations with people, build relationships in groups, in DMs, wherever that may be. And the second thing is to continue to grow your audience. Don't just think, oh, hang on, the law has said I can go and find clients in groups. I'm going to like ignore my social media and go and just hang out in groups. That's not what we're saying. You've got to continue because, audience is important. And as your business grows and you may want to do more things, like you might want to start selling like a course, or you might want to do memberships, or you might want to do lots of smaller, low ticket products. You will need a bigger audience for that. Like we said right at the start of the podcast, it does depend a little bit. But if you're just looking for social media management or ads management clients, for example, you don't need masses of an audience. But when you start to sell at more of a one-to-many, like more and scale that, you obviously do need a bigger audience. So don't kick yourself and think, oh, I wish I'd actually continued to grow my audience 2 years ago when I first got my clients. Like that should be part of your weekly life forever more. Amen. It's got to be part of what you do.
And the whole time that you're building these relationships with these people in the Facebook groups or the messages, whatever, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go over to your socials. They're going to check you out. Yeah. And if you're not posting, they're like, well, what kind of social media manager doesn't post on their own socials?
Exactly.
It doesn't look good for you. So it's all about positioning as well as building those relationships. It's making you look good, making you look knowledgeable and like an expert, and that you can actually do the job.
Yeah, and just need to be a bit strategic about what it is you're posting on social media. So if you're wanting to grow your audience, you need to reach more people. So reach is 100% needs to be your objective. So you'll want to be creating reels, you'll want to be creating shareable content, you'll want to be creating content that is discoverable. So you'll want to be really clear on SEO and what keywords you should be using. You'll want to be knowing what hashtags you're using depending on which platforms obviously you're using. There's all of these things. What is going to make my content stand out in an explore feed on Instagram? All of those things are really, really valid and essential if you're wanting to grow your audience. It's not about what you're sharing on stories, because stories are only seen by your current audience. It's not just about what you put on the grid to try to convert your current audience. It's about how am I going to reach more people? And that should be paramount, like the top thing for your social media strategy is getting in front of more people. Are there people that I could be aligned with? Who are the influencers in my niche that I could maybe try to do some collaborative work with? All of these conversations are things that you need to be having and creating a plan for.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of this we cover, all of this we cover in the Social Media Managers Toolkit. If you need help to learn how you can kind of market your business and what kind of content to create for your business and for your clients as well, definitely check out the toolkit, because that includes our Social Proof program, which is our psychology-driven social media marketing program, which will help you with all of those different phases of marketing. So from the building the visibility, like Laura's just been saying, and getting the reach, getting new people over to you, into building the relationships with those followers so that you can then eventually go and sell to them. And it will help you to go through all of that, and also to build a launch into your marketing so that when you've got the right people in your audience, you can sell to them. Whether it's your social media management services or power hours, or if you're scaling and you're looking at selling a course or anything like that, you will have all of that knowledge and all of that expertise to be able to go and do that. So if you want to go and check that out, that's the twolauras.com/toolkit, but we'll also put the link for that in our show notes. And you can also obviously learn how to use ads in the toolkit, because that will help you to reach more people. If you do want to grow that audience, that's a great way to grow your audience, is by running ads, bringing people into your business. You could, grow an email list of people using ads, so you can then communicate to potential clients via email as well. There's so many different things that you can do in order to be able to build an audience and, get clients that don't involve cold pitching. We are not about that at all. That just fills me with dread. Yeah. No way, Jose.
Agree. Awesome. Okay, well, we will be back same time, same place next week. We will see you then.
Au revoir.
Toodaloo.